Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, depending on where and when you're watching us from. Once again, it's a beautiful day here in the continent of Africa, where we are coming live to you to discuss the topic of dialects of the soil. We are continuing with the topic that we began last week, that was the previous Sunday. We want to further on that discussion and see where it gets to. I am Mutadhiwa Shirawanyaga, and I am still reporting live from Nairobi, Kenya. Ali, how are you?
I'm getting you, my brother. My name is Ali. I'm joining you live from South Africa, from the mountains of Limpopo. Kimosha wengine kwa Limpopo, retired DJ, but kamoka. Renamejiri chao, my brother. Hey, Omondi, hey, Wachiri.
Ali, remember we just had not finished the discussion that we had last Sunday. So today we are going to do it very briefly to maybe wrap up the various points that we never put across, because I was getting a lot of feedback. I think that it is an interesting topic that we had, and we decided to push it on further. So today we want to further on that discussion and see where it gets to. I can see we have a guest today, Odoro Mondi. Maybe he did introduce himself last time, but I know it won't break a bone to introduce himself once again for the people who are seeing you for the first time. Odoro.
Yes, good evening, Ali. Good evening, Washira. Thanks for having me back again. Odor Omondi Ogara, the infamous Triple O, a man from Nyanza, the lakeside. My complexion is still the same. We only breed fish and daga from that other side. So it's wonderful to have me back, and I think we'll pick it from where we left, and we'll have to do the discourse as it should be. Thank you.
Thank you, Odor. Ali, how is South Africa? How are you doing there?
No, we're doing great. We are just experiencing power issues in South Africa, where it becomes difficult for us to do a lot of things now. Power is a problem this side. Nothing much to talk about. What we can engage on this side is that we're having a serious power issues. I don't know if we can check with Advocate, but on my side, I know that we have power issues. Advocate, please introduce yourself. Advocate, please unmute yourself.
I think he's having network issues. I don't know, maybe he can be checking on that. However, Ali, here in Kenya, as now in the presidency of our very new president, Dr. William Samoei Ruto, we are seeing some changes. And I think some people are starting to say there's some hope. We are seeing some light at the end of the tunnel. But I also think it is too early to call the shots. So it is going to be an interesting 5 years here in Kenya. And we want to see how far, because right now we have a doctor, for a president. So we see how he will take us through. However, Ali, I don't know if Advocate can now hear us now.
Okay. Advocate, we can see you. Your network was good. Please unmute. I don't know if what's the issue to Advocate, but we'll come back to Advocate.
We'll come back to Advocate. Although since the last time you were here, we were discussing about languages, and we are talking about the dialects of the soil, the African languages. In your end, what have you thought about so far during that week? Have you gotten any feedback from the people who watched us? And how far can you say we got?
Yes, Washira. The discourse we had last, I think it was Sunday. Last Sunday, it was one of the best. Some people reverted back to me. I think on the issues we tackled, I had various people speaking on us as Africans taking our African birth names as in Luo we call it Juok, Nying Juok. simply means your surname and your middle name. And Juok is a literal word that simply means uchawi. Uchawi is a Kiswahili word, and uchawi means witchcraft. So we always call the African names they have been given even the bad names of witchcraft. See, so in other words, when I tell you my name is Lamek Oduor Omondi Egara, so Lamek is my Christian name, and then coming to Oduor is now Nyingjuok. Nyingjuok is the name of witchcraft, but according to them, they call it that. So I think to some extent, I think. When the Europeans came, I'm sorry to say this, even the Queen of England is gone. She'll be buried tomorrow. I've seen my president heading there for the burial. It saddens me to some extent. But that aside, when we talk of our names as names of witchcrafts, it really bridges a sense of what do we take ourselves as Africans. And then to the generation, we also spoke about the youths taking much time in specializing in the rest in other native. Not I call them native because they also had their ground, their historical background, and so on and so forth. They tend to think of foreign languages as being the best compared to our African languages. So most people who reverted back to me, they really spoke on us, the initiatives we need to take as a people on our African names. To mention one friend of mine is called Mangi Mangi. Mangi Mangi and I agree with he is a guy from Ekegusi. Soon he'll be here as one of our guests to talk about things that are of sense to matters Africa and Africans. He spoke. Me and him have decided that in the future, once we've made it, we are going to do away with the so-called Christian names and have our names as the Christian names and the English names, because they are also English in other sense. Only it also varies to where you are from. I'm sure Ali will not call me Oduor. He does call me Odoa. So so it brings some sense. So according to where you come from, it varies. How are you called? Because I spoke to Ashira.
Yeah, just to come in, just to come in, my friend. I see that we have somebody by the name of V. I don't know if you know anybody by the name of V. Trying to connect. Please make sure that you connect your mic and your camera. Please go through Omondi.
Yeah. So as I was saying, where I come from, people don't call the Washira. I think Washira will speak about it. The Washira, CH we mention is as it is. We call it Wachira. But according to them, the CH has the SH. Where I come from, the lakeside, SH is a problem. So we call it Sira. When I try calling soap, I call soap. So it also varies. So we are having like Nilots, as we are named Nilots, and then they are Bantus. We also have problems in as languages, especially the Swahili side. But when it comes to European languages, we tend to believe that we are one of the best in terms of speech and so on and so forth. Our major problem that one person also spoke about the Akalan, that is the AU, that African Union Formation of African Academy of Languages. The Academy of Languages. They have not been so much intense in terms of making African languages those that can even be accommodated in the Western society. So the AU itself should not only measure on us befitting on the African languages this side, but we need to also see the broader sense on even incorporating the European world, because they've already brought their foreign languages as curriculum in our system. It's so sad. It is very sad that we as Africans cherish their languages. We cherish French, we cherish German, we cherish Chinese. We also have them. We have seen Confucius structures in campuses and so on and so forth. So we need to also have African languages and African diversity in terms of also us having constructions in other campuses like New York and so on and so forth, where I can go to Washington DC and find someone being taught Luo. So it bridges that common sense of us having diversity as a globe. I think those are throughout the week,
Yeah.
and I'll give it back to you, Ashira.
Thank you, Dor. I've also been getting some feedback from various people, and they are telling me they were challenged. And today happened to be somewhere we were somewhat discussing about the same thing, and we were talking about languages, and especially in Kenya here, we normally like saying that the Nairobi children or the town children don't know their languages, and it was just a matter of challenging one another. How did you come to learn about? However, I'm getting a lot of feedback. I got a lot of feedback, and what happened is somebody was telling me, what do you really think about this English language? And I told them it is not lost on me that I'm talking English right now. I know it is not my mother tongue, and I don't think it's what we would have wanted, but it is the effects of colonialism and the effects of time and the effects of those people who came before us who never really ushered in an African language. Especially right now, we are seeing that they're trying to push Kiswahili to be the continental language. So the people have been bringing up a lot of feedback. However, the main feedback that I can say that came out really strongly was a challenge, and that is really what we want to to push for especially to our young people. We want to challenge them to think differently. We want to challenge them to do things differently because it is high time. It is high time people to do things differently, especially here in Africa. Ali, what is the feedback that you are getting or we are still getting from our previous episode?
Now, we are actually getting feedback this side. And
Mhm,
the first thing that I can tell you is that uh, most people are appreciating the show,
mhm,
especially coming from the side of Washiri. Some
mhm,
people, they were saying that they wish that one day there could be a show where you can
mhm,
teach them the language that you're speaking so that
mhm,
they can learn.
mhm,
That's when I was like, no, that's quite fascinating because it shows that people are watching and people are learning. And on my
mhm,
side, I can tell you that most
mhm,
people, they want to taking their language, serious,
mhm,
especially when it comes to writing, because most
mhm,
of them, they are able to speak their language, but not too deeply. But the issue that I hear from the ground, most people that are saying, they're saying that some, I met this friend of mine today. She was saying that she's ashamed of herself because she's not able to write her mother tongue.
Oh, yeah.
She
But
is
you
not
see,
able to
Ali,
write a marathon properly. So I asked her
yeah.
that what happened because you are doing your language in school and you are
Mhm,
able to write your language. What actually
mhm,
transpired now? She was saying, look, man, now I'm spending much of my time reading English books, making sure
mhm,
that I learn new English words. When it comes
mhm,
to my mother tongue, I'm not
mhm,
investing much on it. But since I watched the African Corner show,
mhm.
where I saw the importance of my language because there are a lot of things that I need to take them into account
Mm.
without any hesitation. The lady, she said that who's the guy that we invited? There's a guy who's a psychology that we invited. What's the name of the guy?
Karugu.
Karubuka. What's the name?
Karugu.
Karuku. The lady, she was saying that Karuku was appetizing her to a
Mhm.
point whereby she even bought a baby book to make sure that she learned the idioms. Of like, oh my word, Karuku
Yeah.
made a difference. So that's when I started to learn that no, people are taking into account. My man, let me tell you
Mhm,
this: it's very much painful how
mm.
people speak English fluently with their idioms, speak English so deeply, but they're not able to write their mother tongue. But high five to Karupi. Karupi actually, helped somebody to be able to take their language into account. But we're getting a
And that
positive
is the
feedback on this side.
impact that we are looking for, and that is the impact that we want to to create, especially in Africa. And you just reminded me of Ngugi Thiong'o writes books these days, and even for the past few years in his language, that is the Gikuyu language, and then they are translated later to to other languages. So I think it is also nice because I remember back in primary school, in English subject, there was a topic that most parts in topics we used to hear about reading and listening. So listening and reading, or something of that kind of sort. So I think you might listen, or you might hear, or you might be able to speak your language, but when you get to the extent that you can actually read it, I think that is really commendable, and we really want to commend that in the entire continent. However, today, we are getting a lot of questions that we may maybe let me start to pose that to Odor here. Odor, to what extent can we distinguish African languages from the thought of being tribal? Remember, many times when we talk about African languages, many people think of it as now being tribalistic, or these people want to segregate themselves. They want to see themselves in a various manner. And you have even gotten to the point where that even in various, for example, in the university, where you find people somewhere speaking their language, and other people think that is really bad. They look down upon it, and they say, these people are very tribal. These people just want to talk their language. How do you think? What do you think about that?
I'm sorry, Washira, you are cracking. I don't know. It's the network on my side or your side.
Okay, let me go again. I'm saying that to what extent can we distinguish, African languages from the thought of being tribal? To being tribal, there's a difference between. They normally say there's a difference between ethnicity and tribalism. So, sometimes you might find pride, or you find that wonderful feeling when you're speaking your language, or you can be able to convert your language. And however, especially in universities, just as I was saying, you might find certain people, for example, they are from a various community, and when they speak their language, other people view it as tribalistic. So how can we be able to put that? How can we be able to put that line and distinguish between the two?
In terms of pride, um, I'm a victim. Yeah.
Mhm.
So let me start from the metaphorical world of the African languages
Mhm.
being called the mother language, and then the African cultures pass it as an impact on the father language. In just a point, metaphorically, it is known that the mother language, it is called the mother language. African language is named the mother language because traditionally we take our mothers as the primary caregiver. Once we have our mothers as the primary caregivers, we tend to know that they're the ones who teach us the very basic things that we as children, as toddlers, as we grow, we come to know, and so on and so forth. Coming to the African language being seen as tribal and so on and so forth, majorly as Washira has put it, that in campus, there are some who tend to seclude themselves. There are those that segregate themselves in terms of pride and so on and so forth. I come from a community where pride is a luxury. I'm sorry to say that. Where pride is a luxury. And
Yeah.
anyone will find Washira has been a victim. Anytime I'm with him and I see a friend, we come from the same community, you'll never find us speaking in Swahili. That is one thing that is common. We either speak in English, that is a European language, or Luo. So we are associated with pride and so on and so forth. So when it comes to us being similar tribalistic, it tends to give, I see it as Luo being that language that gives us a sense of belonging. We see that a sense of belonging that gives us a shape of our feelings and thoughts. It also helps us think critically in terms of knowing our skills and so on and so forth. Even second languages, out of that sense, that it has given me the urge of knowing the second languages and even having literacy skills in terms of distinguishing what is right, what is good, and so on and so forth. So when it comes to distinguishing African languages from the tribal languages, it is at times difficult in terms of knowing. We have demerits and merits. So African languages that is yet to be established, but we are seeing improvements in terms of the African Union coming together and agreeing that Swahili is an African language. So even as I say that Luo is an African language and so on and so forth, it has not been bridged as a sense of being of African sense, in quotes. So it makes Kiswahili as one of its best, because more than researchers that more than 46 countries in Africa are speaking Swahili as at now. So and then I'm certain that it has been incorporated in most universities even abroad, and Swahili is being taught as a basic language there. So I'm proud that I speak Swahili this side of the sub-Saharan, and then I have a friend of mine who also teaches Swahili abroad, and that guy just did his undergrad here and proceeded to teach Swahili. So even if Swahili is being taught as basic language the other side, a time is coming that we as African need to have the sense of giving Africa not only the fewer languages that have been have been accepted by fewer countries, but we need to have broader knowledge. Like, you can speak, like Ali can speak from those who come from Limpopo. He can speak his language, yet when he speaks of it, I can also get the sense of what is being spoken of. When Washira will be speaking about Kikuyu, I can get what he speaks of. When I speak Luo, Washira can reply me in a language that I can get, because at times comes we have friends who speak French. They tell us bonjour, we reply bonjour, bonjour aenya, bonjour, bonjour again, bonjour, and so on and so forth. We don't want to be replying and adding English, but we want to be replying that what we are saying as a people, that is it. What where we left last weekend, we were speaking about African languages being seen as tribal. This is what led to the 1994 Rwanda genocide. There was Kenya in 2007, where people voted. Like in my country in 2007, I was still young, yes, but I was able to distinguish. There was some barrier that was brought, and even in the early years of Kenya getting its independence, Washira can agree with me that our forefathers brought in us some sense that Kikuyus are bad, where Washira's forefathers brought in him that Luos are bad. So we've been having that gap, and that gap has never been fixed. You can even see it as at now, what happened in the previous election. People have not gotten the sense of learning and even diversifying as a people for coexistence. So it has brought that barrier that we have issues. When you check in Western Sudan, when I checked, I did some fewer research. When you see that there was ethnic cleansing in Darfur, that is in Western Sudan, that brought a lot of things. So we need to accept ourselves first as Africans, is when we accept the African languages, so that we can identify the genuine problems that we have as a people. That is number one. We can have proportionate development as a people, so that we grow. Once we grow as a people, we tend to appreciate ourselves as who we are, and then we respect the will, aspirations of one another, and the needs of those people. I think that is it.
You know, actually, Odori have reminded me something. In you see, when you learn this or you know these mother languages, sometimes when you get angry and you really want to express yourself, you cannot do it in English. You cannot do it in English, I'm telling you. For you to administer your emotions properly, you have to shift. or when you're trying to explain something to somebody, you know, you try and shift to this language. You have just reminded me that bit. But somebody's texting me on WhatsApp, and let me just say it here for the benefit of everyone to hear. They're asking me, what are these books that you're talking about that are written by Ngugi wa Thiong'o in the Gikuyu language? And there was one that was written that was called Gahikadeda, which is translated to I will marry when I want. And the other one is Shaitani Mudhara Faini, that is the devil on the cross. Ama kwa Kiswahili tunasema shetani msalabani. So he has written some sort of book, various books on the Gikuyu language. So I just wanted to put that for the record, so that people can hear. For those people who want to read them, they can go and get them. But they have also been translated to English and other, you know, European languages. So you know, it is quite interesting, Ali, to hear the sentiments that Odora has put forth. I don't know, what is your reaction to that, Ali? And also, you can put forth your questions so that we can be answering them in the next few minutes.
Yeah, no, nothing much, my brother. Nothing much, my brother. We are listening here in South Africa to. I believe I'm calling your name right, my brother. What's the name? Omondi. Odo. I hope I'm calling it right. I hope I'm calling it right. Now, look, my brother. I want to relate to what Shiri was saying. Yes, I agree with you, my brother. In most cases, when we get angry, we don't speak English. When we get angry, we speak our mother tongue to express ourselves. I don't know.
Yeah.
I didn't know that it's also happening to you guys that side.
I I
You know,
think it is global. I think it is not only in Africa, but even in those other parts of the world like China or
yeah.
even in Europe and in the Americas. So I think there's just a way, there's the way anger brings it to you. It brings some sort of thing to you that you have to express it. Just like the way I don't know. I don't know if that happens in South Africa, but here when people get drunk, they become English. They become professors. When you get drunk, I'm telling you, the whole village will know
No,
you
no,
can
it
speak English.
happens. It
It
happens.
happens there.
It happens. Especially look at most of those people who are not to be feminine or how about though. Look at most of those people who are actually advocate. Please make sure that you turn on your camera and unmute. Advocate, please make sure that you turn on your camera so that we can be able to go through. Look at most of those people who are educated, especially
Mm.
when they become drunk. Oh my word! I'm telling you, my brother.
Yeah.
Advocate, welcome to the house. Please introduce yourself to the house.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Advocate Magali from South Africa, currently in Pretoria, but I'm from Limpopo in Venda. Thank you very much.
All right,
Ali.
no, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Advocate. Advocate, we were still actually, it's a continuation of the motion that you were having last week. I'm gonna head it back to my brother Washiwi to give you the question that we are on. Washiwi?
Okay. So let me bring in the question in a manner that is progressive. So I want to ask another question both to Odor and to Advocate here and also to you, Ali. So we have really talked about today. We are trying to focus on how we can be able to distinguish tribalism and ethnicity. How can we distinguish that I am proud of my community and that's why I speak my language very profoundly and with pride, and how I can distinguish that from making it being tribalistic, so from making it ethnic and making it negative, because in Africa it's a little bit difficult, and that is the experience that we're getting here in Kenya mostly, and as Odoras put it, because he is from that community that my community finds difficulty with dealing with. And I really don't understand, because I think this is something that was there in those days when the generation that came before us, and also some of our generation are trying also to do that. And I wonder, because me and Odoro can be able to live well and communicate well, and just enjoy and find pride in our various communities without making it negative. So my question then comes as so what steps, or how can we now move forward as Africans to try and showcase to other people that just the way Odor and I have done it, that just because we are from different tribes or different communities that are always up in arms with each other, especially during the election cycles, what can we do to the young people, especially in Africa, to show them that there is a difference between me finding pride and finding my community and taking pride in it and being negative. Just because I speak my language with my people does not mean I'm tribalistic. So how can we do that? How can we be able to put measures to be able to achieve this coexistence between various communities, various tribes in Africa? I'll begin with Advocate, and he will also tell us if that happens in South Africa, where there is some stiff relation between various communities down there.
Good evening once more.
Good evening.
This one is it's a very difficult issue.
Mm-hmm.
Trying to separate tribalism and the language, especially from South Africa. It will take us a long journey for us to achieve that, for number one, because now everyone believes that the tribe that I fall into is the dominant one, is the only one. There is none tribe that is above us. What I'm trying to say actually is that now, I'll make an example of the Zulus and the vendors. The Zulus are the most people that are having pride in South Africa. Zulus are the most people who are I would say, you know, they don't accommodate. They don't want to accommodate anyone. We are having almost 11 official languages in South Africa. And then for us, it's difficult to communicate through languages, our indigenous languages, without using English. Why? Because that no one wants to accept, no one wants to learn another's one language. And then why am I saying this is because, and the cause of this is because now, you know, it all starts within our communities. And then it goes up to the educational system that we are receiving in South Africa. If our communities where we grew up, we grow up being taught that, you know, Africa is a diverse continent. South Africa is a diverse country with a lot of languages, different languages. If we grow up being taught that, you know what, you don't only end up within this surrounding of this community. There is a world out there. There is a lot of people that will meet, different languages with different backgrounds, but we are not being taught that. So for me, it's gonna be impossible for now for us to distinguish between tribalism and languages. Because once I'm saying I'm a Zulu, I'm automatically stating that I belong to this tribe. You understand? And then one another thing, there are a lot of issues that are happening, you know. Once we defeat the issue of equality in South Africa, gender-based violence in South Africa, we are going to have a problem of tribalism. Every tribe wants to lead. We are happy when Ramaphosa is leading as a vendor. We are saying, yeah, the vendors are in charge. The vendors are in power. The Zulus are going to oppose. They're going to make sure that they are opposing the power of vendors. We're having a president who's a vendor. They will make sure by all means that they will want to overthrow the president because he's a vendor, he's not a Zulu. So the president is doing well. Just because he's a vendor, he's not good enough. You understand? And then last, I don't know, Ali, if whether you came across these things. There was once last time, it was in Soweto, where community members were complaining, stating that there was one police station that was hiring only Tsongas. There were a lot of Tsongas in that police station. So people wanted to fight the minister. Why is he hiring only Tsongas in this police station? You understand? So it's not going to be only about languages. It's going to be about tribe. We're going to have a serious problem. So another thing is because now Africa, we don't have an international language. That's number one. You know, the Portuguese are proud speaking Portuguese. Even when they do interviews in a national television, they speak Portuguese. They don't speak English, they speak Portuguese. The Spanish, they speak Spanish. They don't speak English. But when the president of Kenya addressing the nation, he's not gonna speak Swahili. He speaks English. You understand? So what does it tell us? The president of South Africa, when he's addressing the nation, he speaks English. He doesn't speak Venda. You understand? What does it tell us? It tells us that we are still far from learning each other's language. You understand? I don't know if we are too ignorant or what. So that is my brief view on when it comes to languages and tribalism. You cannot distinguish that. You cannot separate that, especially in South Africa.
Okay. Thank you, Advocate. I also want to pose the same question to our very own here, Odoro Mondi Ogara. What are your sentiments towards the same question? What can we do? What are the steps that we can do, to achieve coexistence of these African languages, so that we cannot see it as tribal? Our advocate has put it quite clearly that it will take us a lot of time so that we can be able to distinguish between tribalism and language. So, what about you? What do you think about that?
Yeah, just like Advocate has stated, it is very true that it will take us time. That is something we need to accept as a people. It will take us time. But one thing we need to know, are we really identifying the genuine problems that we have as Africans? Once we identify genuine problems affecting us at our ethnic backgrounds, affecting us as at our tribal backgrounds, affecting us as nations, as countries in our various blocks, ECOWAS, the EAC, and so on and so forth, affecting us economically and so on and so forth. We can sit down as a people and we strategize on what is good and right for us, is when we know the steps we need now to take. This is where now proportionate development will come in place. After proportional development will be in place, we as Africans, we have development in our various places, and people will have that cohesiveness as we have been coexisting as a people. So there is need for us to have our own international language, just like Advocate has stated. The major problem we have is us accepting being juniors and surrogates of the Europeans. This has led to us being, we tend to be like their juniors. Whatever the big four says, our uncles, we call them Uncle Sam. Whatever Uncle Sam says, I don't know if only you know Uncle Sam. Whatever Uncle Sam, in other words, we call that is how we call Uncle Sam this other side. Uncle Sam is the United States of America. Whatever the Uncle Sam states, that is what will go on, and that is what will happen. For example, when you look at currently in Kenya, we have fuel prices that have gone high. Why? You'll hear an elected president and an elected deputy, or the outgone and the outgoing, speaking of there is war in Ukraine and there is war between Russia and Ukraine. So you tend to wonder, is Africa not having the raw materials to process all these things and bring them to us? For example, here in Kenya, we have Turkana, which is really sleeping with petroleum oil and oil that can really help us work on our things. But the last 4 months, when you look at the subsidy that the outgone government put in place, was close to 16 billion a month times 4 months. That means that we as a people have been ignorant for quite some time and are not utilizing our resources. When we do this, we'll have to respect the will. When we respect the will of the people, we'll also include the art of accepting our aspirations as individuals. Despite this person coming from being a Zulu, despite this person being a Luo, despite this person coming from Turkana, despite you being a Kalenjin, and so on and so forth, we as a people can really strategize on ways we can have a common language that can be spoken by all of us and can be encrypted and put in place, so that even other people in other cultures, other people from other places can be able to learn from this. Another point to put is that we also have people who are assimilated. Someone can be assimilated and learn your language and even speak it. But what is the benefit, you as that person that has the ownership of that language? What is the benefit that you have as a person of me knowing this language, me exhibiting the cultures and the trends that this language has brought to me? What is the benefit that it bridges to you, so that you can help other people learn from them, you can help other people exhaust a lot of things from your culture, and know even from the sources, how are African religion being brought? I know we'll be having this topic soon, 3 weeks to come, or even a week. I know we'll exhaust on why we tend to believe that the religion or the religious beliefs of other states, of especially the European, in this sense, the Western Christianity is the best compared to our African languages, where it has swallowed most of us. You check, like in Kenya today, when you look at most people who voted, they were Christians, and Christians were swayed as much as possible. The current president, Dr. William Samoei Ruto, was being beaten by even the state resources. But what do they say? They come and tell us who is God. The God that they serve have made them come to that to the office. So we tend to believe these things as a people. So after getting to know the will, appreciating the aspirations, we need to know now the needs of the people of African continent. We need to know what are the needs that we as Africans have. In these needs, how are we able to combine them? How are we able to merge them and even amalgamate them so that we can have a common decency of having an international language that is appreciated? I'm seeing Swahili trending, just like I said previously before Advocate came in. Swahili is trending to an extent. It's being taught in various states in the United States of Africa. I'm sure in the US it is being taught. So I think as we sojourn, as we move as a people of Africa, we need to distinguish ourselves from being tribalistic, ethnic, and having a common decency of knowing that we are Africa and Africa is our business. Thank you.
Thank you. Odor, in Kiswahili tunasema usimwage mtama kwenye kuku wengi. So you don't tell them. They should wait and see what we'll discuss about that topic. However, I'm getting what I'm getting from both our guests here is that it will take us a lot of time to achieve this so that we can be able to bring this coexistence. But now my question is, have we started? Because for anything to take time, it ought to have started somewhere. Even in a race, we have a start line and we have a finish line. So have we even really started? Or are we just speaking and saying that, it will take us a lot of time? Ali, what do you think about that? And please unmute yourself.
To take a question, I would also like to comment on what Advocate and my brother Womondi actually, they were engaging on. We have not started, my brother, and I think it's gonna take us some time to start. Advocate mentioned something that is very much important, that we look at. Let's take it to the side of politics, because currently, politics are dominating. If the president of a certain country is a Zulu or a Venda or a Pedi or whatever, coming from whatever community, there is going to be a certain stigma that is going to develop to say that we as the Pedis are not going to be led by the Zulu. We as the Tsongas are not going to be led by the Pedis. You get my point? So there the problem will come. This side in South Africa, we have the problem that my advocate just mentioned, that when a person is, there's this thing that is happening, and personally, I'm facing this thing each and every day. There are a lot of people that I meet who are Zulu. This thing, it pains me a lot. When I meet these people, you find that maybe I'm speaking English because I'm on duty. They will take you down, those people. They want you to speak their Zulu. When you try to speak Spedi, they don't want even to speak Spedi. They want you to speak Zulu. This pains me a lot. I don't know. This shows me that you are still too far. I engaged this guy last week on Wednesday, that my brother, we had a show where we were talking about language. Can I ask you something? The guy was quite open. I'm like, why do you Zulus want to speak your own language, even though you find that the situation doesn't suit you to speak your language? You know what the guy said? Tina Simazulu. Tina Timazulu, Simazulu. Timazulu, Simanduna. Akuno umuntu wasasitshela ukuthi no fanele senzeni singayenza. Simanduna Tina ungumuntu la uShaka Zulu usilwele uShaka Zulu usilwele manje uShaka Zulu usi-athlete kufanele ukuthi i-president yalapha eSouth Africa ibe mZulu because uShaka Zulu usilwele. You know, that's what the guy told me. He told me that the late Shaka Zulu was the one who fought for a lot of things here in South Africa. So now even the Zulus must be recognized. And the guy told me that Zulu must be used as a national language in South Africa because the Zulus, they fought a lot of things in South Africa. The Zulus were the ones who were leading a lot of things in South Africa. The guy told me that the history of Zulu in South Africa, it's bigger than any other tribe in South Africa. That's why the Zulus today, they make sure that when they speak their languages, they speak it with pride and they want everyone to listen. I'm like, oh, Jesus, listen to this guy.
Ali, you know, just as we wrap up, because time is not on our side anymore. We are 45 minutes in and we are supposed to be wrapping up in the next 5 minutes. So all said and done, we know the negatives that are there. We know you know, what language can be of benefit and how language can also be a curse to the Africans. So according to you guys, starting with Advocate once again, what can you now recommend as an African we do on this matters language so that we can be able to, you know, at least move forward? Even if we have not yet gotten to the point where we can coexist, how can we move forward? As you give also your parting shots, and then I'll come to Odor and then he does the same. Advocate? Please unmute. You're on mute.
Oh, thank you very much once again, Wachira. You know what, ne? I think that the only international language that we can recognize is Swahili up to so far. I've seen Swahili is being spoken in various countries within the continent of Africa. So I think that is the language that we should move with. But yet again, we as Africans, you know, it will be very much interesting and very nice. I know, Guti, we cannot learn all the languages in Africa because there are a lot. But within our nationalities, within our countries, some countries have 5 languages. It will be very nice when Ali communicates with me in Sepedi and I respond with my language Chivenda. He will be able to hear me. He speaks Sepedi. I respond with Chivenda. So that we cannot have this thing of stating that this is a national language, because now if we're gonna go for that, Guti, let's opt to have a national language. South Africans also will want that one of their languages to be recognized in the continent. You know, the Ghanas will also want their language to be recognized. It's gonna be a mess. Starting from in South Africa, if we are saying that let us have a national indigenous language, that the one that we should recognize, that the whole South Africa should speak in an absence of English and Afrikaans, it's gonna be a serious war. The Paris won't allow to recognize Zulus. The vendors won't allow to recognize Gucci. There must be a Xhosa national language. So the best thing, the best way forward is that in all, it must start in our educational system. They should introduce the curriculum where people, learners must choose, you know, 4 to 3 indigenous languages that they should learn, excluding their mother tongue. You understand? So it's gonna be better in that way. It's gonna be a start. It's gonna be a start where we can say, you know what? Now we are starting to introduce people must use more languages, excluding their mother tongue. So that is the only way forward I can think of now.
Thank you, Advocate. Odor, moving on to you. What can you recommend and also give your parting shot.
Yes, what I can recommend is that Africans, we need to accept ourselves as Africans. That is the number one thing we need to know. The first thing we need to know is that acceptance of who you are really matters a lot to the person who sees you as an individual. So, to start with, is to remove the misconception of Africans being seen as primitive. If you remove that misconception as an African and you meet with other people from diverse places, you don't lose a lot, because it gives you a bridge of who you are and the acceptance of what is there at the table. PLO Lumumba speaks and tells us that's a professor of law, former director of Kenya School of Law. He says that if you don't want to dine with the diner at the dinner table, you will be the waiter that is serving dinner at the diner in the dinner table. So it's better for us to, all of us, be at the dinner table as Africans, sit down, analyze what is there, have what is there, and put them into context. Discuss our genuine problems as Africans, deduce the strategies to be used. But the three questions we need to know: are we really ready as Africans? You know, we can be speaking here in this show tonight, but as Africans, we are not ready. When you check even the Pan-Africanism that was closed, the Pan-Africanists that have been put in place, the Agenda 2063 that has been brought in Africa, what are the things that Africa is doing? Is ratification really going to be factual? That is number one thing. Is it just going to be on paper, or we are going to discuss the issues as they come and as they are? That is the things we need to know. And is it just of people, or what are we? Is it for Africans? Because what we do currently is what will affect the later generations. Once the colonialists had left us, we remained with our fellow Africans who are colonizing us. So we need to know that herein are our problems. These are the way to go about them. These are the ways to deal with them. And then the African languages will just be put as things that already were discussed, and they are able to go beyond and far. I thank God that Kiswahili is now a global language. Let me put it like that, because I'm proud. Someone is paying his fee to speak Swahili somewhere, but I can fix fluent Swahili. There are issues with my Swahili in terms of academics, but I can speak fluent Swahili and so on and so forth. So Swahili being taught in the other universities, it gives us a sense of belonging. I feel nice and I feel rejuvenated when the language I know, the African language I know, is being taught to people who are perceived to be superior to us. So as I said, the 3 points I've been putting in place since we began. Let us identify our problems that are genuine. Let us have proportional development as Africans, and let us respect the will, aspirations, and the needs of the people that are encompassing us, so that even as we move as a people who are Africa, and we take African language to the next step. That is it. Thank you.
Thank you, Edward. Ali, I don't want to add or deduce anything from that, but I've seen a comment from Mary Wanjiko to say she's tuned in, and we want to appreciate her for that. Ali, Africa is a very funny continent. I think it is the most funny continent in the world. I don't know if there's a continent like Africa. I don't know. However, I like saying that the minute that we as Africans decolonize the mind, we change how we think, is when Africa will be different. It all begins and ends in the mind. Achille Mbembe said that the first place you must start decolonizing is the mind, because the mind is the standard of the man. And I agree that. So the minute you, as an African, you start seeing myself, for example, I come from the Gikuyu community, and I start seeing that aspect of me coming from that community as a blessing rather than a curse, then it will be something nice. And when I'll be able to appreciate also somebody who's from another community the same way I am, without looking at it negatively, is when we are going to change ourselves. Remember, initially, we were not Kenyans. We were not South Africans. We were not Zambians. We were not Angolans. We were not all those countries. we were our community. We were Luo, we were Sepedi, we were Zulu, we were Agekoi, we were all those languages. And then the minute we started now segregating ourselves into various continents, countries, based on what the colonizers did to us. And then now we go to the extent where we want to do the same thing ourselves in our communities, then we ought to be ashamed of ourselves. And that is what I can say today. I want to challenge every African out there and every, young person out there. Start wanting to know. It will come from within, and then you will see the importance of you learning your language, because your culture, your most of your culture and most of your tradition, and what I might say, your wisdom lies in the language. So, Ali, that's it from me today. I want to thank everybody who has been watching us. I want to thank everybody who has continued subscribing, sharing, and liking our content. We want to thank them very much. And we want to remind them that coming this Tuesday, we are back with the State of the Continent, where we will be telling them what is going on in the continent as of that day. So they stay tuned and they share. And with that, tunasema asante sana, tunashukuru sana, Mungu wabariki. I'm still Washira. Ali, over to you.
I get you now, my brother Kiri. Thank you so much, my brother. I'd like to pass my special thanks to Advocate Abram Mokale, one of the vendors in the house, joining us from South Africa. Thank you so much, Advocate, for joining us. And also our brother here, Omondi, joining us live from Kenya, and my co-host here, Wachibi, Kiana Ali Ongwana Kolimpopo, Wakoditabenya, Matlapare, Faina Papa. Thank you so much, my brother. African Kona. This is African Kona. Thank you so much, brothers. Let's call it a night.
Asante sana.
Asante se karibu se.